Hello, I'm Ken Carpenter, and this is Invest AI Savvy, where AI powers smart investing. Today's Tuesday, April 28th, 2026. Marathon Digital just lit up our system with 12 independent convergence signals, a buzz surge Z score of 6.1, 35% of its float sold short, and options premiums sitting at the second cheapest reading we've seen all year. That's a setup the system spent months waiting to see, and it printed today, less than 24 hours before five of the largest companies on earth report earnings on the same night. Here's why that matters to you. We are walking into the single most concentrated mega cap earnings event of the year tomorrow night. Google, Meta, Microsoft, and Amazon all report, and Apple follows on Thursday. Volatility is compressing into that wall. The VIX is at 18.8, down almost 4% in 5 days. Marathon Digital, and why the system locked it as today's highest conviction discovery. The contrast story buried inside the earnings wall that almost nobody is talking about. Three additional names worth watching for the rest of the week, and one specific list of high attention tickers I'm telling you to actively avoid today. And toward the end of the show, I'm going to spend a few minutes on one of the most obscure crypto tokens that two completely independent intelligence systems flagged at the exact same time, a convergence pattern that almost never happens. And when it does, you want to know about it before the rest of the internet figures it out. That's what I'm going to tell you about if you stay on till toward the end of the show. Now, today's highest conviction discovery is Marathon Digital Holdings. This is the system-defined signal of the day. The pipeline locked it overnight after 12 independent signal layers all converged on the same ticker. And that depth of convergence is the rarest pattern BuzzPulse produces. Most days you get 3 or 4 signals lining up. 12 is a different category of finding. Now, let me walk you through what's actually inside that signal stack. Marathon is a mid-cap stock, a Russell 2000 component, currently trading around $11.20. The Buzz Surge Z-score came in at 6.1, which means social attention on this name is more than 6 standard deviations above its baseline. That is statistically extreme, not spectacularly interesting. Momentum is confirmed. We're seeing a buzz price divergence, which usually means social activity is leading price action and the price hasn't caught up yet. Then the structural setup. 35% of Marathon's flow is currently sold short. That is a textbook squeeze setup if a catalyst lands. And the options chain is telling us its own story. Implied Volatility Rank is at 2%. That means options on this name are the second cheapest they've been in the last 52 weeks, while social attention is at a multi-month high. That is the exact mispricing signature institutional flow looks for. Cheap options plus crowded shorts plus rising attention is a configuration that produces violent moves. Now the editorial layer. Lunar Crush is independently flagging a major announcement Marathon is set to make at the Bitcoin Conference 2026, with sentiment running at 82% positive and the dominant narrative theme splitting between strategic debt reduction, the company's ongoing pivot from pure Bitcoin mining into AI and high-performance computing infrastructure, and the short squeeze setup itself. Social dominance for Marathon is up almost 25% week over week. Creators talking about it are up 43%. This is not background chatter. This is a name building a real audience right now. I'm watching Marathon for an expansion of range over the next 24 to 72 hours, with particular attention to whether option flow continues to lean directional into the conference. I'm not telling you to buy it. I am telling you it crossed the system's quality gate today with the deepest convergence stack we've seen this month, and it's worth your attention. Now, let's talk about the data story of the day because there's something happening underneath today's signals that's bigger than any single stock. The story is Bitcoin dominance and the altcoin rotation that just started. Bitcoin's share of the total crypto market is at 58%, down 1.5% in 24 hours. That sounds small, but it isn't. When dominance falls in a meaningful way, it almost always means capital is rotating out of Bitcoin and into smaller, faster moving altcoins. And the data we're seeing today is consistent with exactly that. Solana jumped 155 positions in the Lunar Crush AltRank to number 23, which is the largest single day rank improvement in our entire feed today. Dogecoin moved up 43 positions to AltRank 3. Both got flagged as media anomalies, meaning the social acceleration is statistically out of the pattern, not just elevated. That tells you the rotation isn't happening in obscure corners. It's happening in the names that retail and institutional money both already know how to buy. But here's the part that connects this back to Marathon. When Bitcoin dominance falls and altcoins lead, Bitcoin miners get treated as a high beta proxy for the entire complex. Marathon doesn't just trade off its own fundamentals, it trades off whether the speculation in crypto is expanding or contracting. And right now, speculation is expanding. That's part of why a 12 signal convergence on Marathon is hitting on the same day Solana and Dogecoin are showing AltRank surges. The system is picking up a regime, not just a stock. The other piece of data story is the divergence list. 8 names are flagged in today's brief as showing meaningful divergence between social attention and price. Apple, Amazon, AMD, Marathon, Coinbase, MicroStrategy, Bed Bath & Beyond, and ARM. The one I want to single out is Apple. Apple is down 1.3% on the day with rising social attention going into its April 30th earning print. That kind of negative price action against rising chatter ahead of a known catalyst is the configuration that resolves violently in one direction or the other after the print. Worth watching, not worth front running. Before I name the watch list, the standard reminder: BuzzPulse is a research platform. I'm not your financial advisor. Nothing in the show is investment advice. The names you've been hearing about and flagged later, they're not buy recommendations, okay? Please do your own research. Don't just depend on me. But here's the watch list for the rest of the week, okay? Going into Wednesday, tomorrow. The first name is Google. Alphabet is the headline pre-earnings setup in today's brief with a Z-score of 9.6 and an elevated surge flag, a recorded all-time high breakout in play, and earnings hitting tomorrow, April 29th. Implied volatility rank is 0%. Options are historically cheap. The unusual activity of note is on the May 1st 110 call when 45 contracts traded against only 15 open interests. That's institutional positioning getting placed into the print right now. What I'm watching for is whether option flow continues to build into tomorrow's close. What would change conviction is any preprint leak or guidance reset that hits the tape before the bell. The second name is NVIDIA. NVIDIA carries the highest C-score in the entire run today at 9.7, up 4% on the session, all-time high breakout, with the most aggressive, unusual options activity of any name in our feed. 54,000 contracts on the April 29th 210 call against 12,000 open interest. That's a ratio that screams directional conviction. The catalyst is a routine driver update, which means the real fuel here is pure momentum and rotation into AI infrastructure. Sentiment on NVIDIA is at 91% positive, and social dominance is up almost 88% week over week. What I'm watching for is whether the AI infrastructure rotation broadens the second tier names. What would change conviction is the recent accounting chief departure becomes a larger story that the market is currently treating it as. The third name is Rumble. Rumble jumped 10.6% on the day, 26% of float sold short, elevated surge tag, and earnings 9 days out on May 7th. That short interest level combined with the social surge ahead of a known earnings catalyst is a live squeeze setup worth tracking. What I'm watching for is whether the short interest holds into the print or starts covering early. What would change conviction is if the surge reverses without follow-through volume in the next two sessions. The fourth name I want to put on your radar is Solana. Solana led the Lunar Crush rankings today with a Galaxy score of 58, and that 155 position AltRank surge to number 23. In the context of falling Bitcoin dominance, this is the cleanest expression of altcoin rotation that we have. What I'm watching for is whether the rotation continues over the next 6 to 24 hours or fades by tomorrow's morning brief. What would change conviction is a Bitcoin reversal that pulls dominance back from 60%. The fifth name is the conviction story I teased earlier, and it's an obscure one. The token is called Sperm Whale. Yeah, that's the name. Galaxy score 49 versus a 7-day average of just 20. That's a 29-point spike flagged high by Lunar Crush. And independently, BuzzPulse surfaced the same token through its own surge detection at a z-score of 8.8. Two completely separate intelligence layers landing on the same obscure token at the same time is the textbook definition of a convergence signal. What I'm watching for is whether the social acceleration sustains for another cycle. What would change conviction, and this is critical, low cap crypto with this profile can move in both directions just as fast. This is a watch only signal. It's not a position recommendation. The system's telling you this exists. Whether it belongs anywhere in your portfolio is your decision, please. And the answer for most people is probably no. Now, let's talk about what we're skipping today, because this part matters as much as the watch list. Today's green top 5, the 5 names with the highest combined attention and momentum scores in our system, looks like this. Bed Bath & Beyond are the top with a green score of 0.55 and a z-score of 12.4. Beyond Meat at 0.48, z-score 6.3. AMC at 0.46, z-score 5.6. Riot Platforms at 0.39, z-score 1.9. And Rumble at 0.29, z-score 6.9. Rumble is the only name on this list that also made the watch list because it has a real fundamental setup behind it. Short interest, social acceleration, and a known earnings catalyst 9 days out. The other 4 are different. Bed Bath & Beyond, Beyond Meat, and AMC are meme names. Their z-scores look impressive in isolation, but the greed score is exactly the metric that tells you something has become crowded, late, and emotionally charged rather than discovered, early, and structurally sound. These 3 are reactive trades chasing a story that is already being told everywhere on social media. By the time a name shows up on the top of the greed list, the institutional money that drove the early move has often already taken profits, and what's left is a retail chasing the charts. And that's not where the edge lives. That's where the edge gets extracted from you. Riot Platforms is a different problem. The Z-score is only 1.9, which means it's mostly there because of greed mechanics, not because of a real signal surge. It's riding the same Bitcoin miner narrative that lifted Marathon, but without the convergence step, without the options mispricing, and without the short squeeze structure. If you want exposure to that thesis, the system is pointing you at Marathon, not at Riot. The honest take on the greed top 5 today is that none of these 4 belong in a thoughtful portfolio. The list is useful precisely because it tells you where the noise is concentrated so you can avoid mistaking attention for opportunity. Looking ahead, the macro calendar over the next 5 trading days is dense. Tomorrow night, April 29th, you'll have the mega cap earnings wall. Meta, Google, Microsoft, and Amazon all reporting after the close. Apple reports Thursday, April 30th, and the May 2nd jobs report, 4 days out, is the macro print that could reprice the entire current regime. A hot non-farm payrolls number could pull rate cut expectations off the table and knock the legs out from under this low VIX, cheap options environment right as mega cap earnings euphoria is digesting. If you're carrying meaningful long exposure into Friday, size accordingly. Everything you heard today was locked from BuzzPulse data as of 1 a.m. Pacific. That's our transparency promise. You know what we know when we know it. The system runs every 6 hours. The next refresh cycle continues today, and we'll see you back here tomorrow. I'm Ken Carpenter. This is Invest AI Savvy, and that's the way it is.